before we get started, I want to just quickly introduce myself. My name is Ben Salami. I am the CEO and founder of a company called Bendeji Technologies. We're an app development company, and we've developed this amazing app called Canadian Mortgage App, of which several other versions came out. PreQ1 was a feature we developed about 4 years ago, and it was the first generation of our PreQual. And over the years, we've learned so much from it. So we decided to build PreQ2. This particular feature took us, believe it or not, it took about a year. So I'm super excited to tell you about it and also tell you why we built it. So let's get started. The question about what is the maximum purchase price goes through everyone's head. Every person who wants to purchase a home, the first thing they think about is, what is the maximum purchase price I can afford? Unfortunately, when you ask mortgage professional or mortgage broker or even walk to a bank, the issue at hand is that there are so many details that is required in order to calculate the maximum purchase price. There's obviously the down payment, the rates, because there's the MQR, whether you're going to rent it out or not, what are the debts you have currently, and what are your payments? What's the GDST TDS based on your credit score? Insurability, credit, employment, assets, lenders, the DSCR if you own other properties, and some of the things that are actually connected to a property, like condo fees, property taxes, the location, heat expenses. It's quite strange because if you're looking to figure out what is your maximum purchase price, it looks like you need property information, a property you haven't found yet. So that's what really got us interested in this, because this was a challenge that we really wanted to solve. It's like there's a catch-22. In order to figure out your maximum purchase price, before you start looking, you needed a property. Sounded very strange to us. So we dove in, and I'm super happy to show you how we've built it. So introducing PreQual 2. Now, this PreQual, in case you don't have it on your app yet, unfortunately, it's not available everywhere yet. There's a QR code I have on every slide in the top left corner. Whenever you feel like it, scan it, register yourself as an interested party. So when we do have it, we can notify you. You can do it at any point during the presentation. This QR code will stay static on all the slides. So let me tell you about PreQual 2. It obviously calculates the maximum purchase price before the property is found. So when you have the app and you send it to a client actually goes through their own convenient time, plugs in some numbers, and figures out their max purchase price. They get a beautiful branded report. The reports are trackable, so you can see who has viewed the reports. And at the same time, in real time, you get all the information that the client has pushed into the app so that you can further do your assessment on that. Okay, so that's the basics. Now let's dive a little bit deeper into all the features it has. So the live reports, in case you haven't seen the live reports, they look amazing. They're also trackable, meaning that when someone views the report, you get notified. So you can create unlimited number of reports. And when you send a report to a client and situation changes, you can actually open your phone, modify the scenario, and the report is updated. So client never has to get a new copy of the report. It's always up to date, always live. In the corner of the report, there's a download PDF button right there. You can actually hit that and it downloads your PDF. There's a super cool slide. There's actually 2 sliders. You can quickly swipe the available funds that the client has or their income. So you can quickly move these 2 sliders around and see the max purchase price on top change. Easy UI, you can enter in all the liabilities, credit cards, line of credit, personal loans, car loans or lease, spousal support, child support. You can enter them all into a beautiful UI, which we'll go through. And it automatically calculates the minimum payments for each. So if it's not a payment, but rather a balance, it'll figure out what the minimum payments are. The rules are customizable. There's a really cool feature on these debts. You can actually simulate them as paid and see how it affects the purchase price. So currently, what mortgage brokers do is, if a person says, I have $300,000, they'll adjust the down payment and pay off the debts just to see what the GDS looks like. But if you are not happy with it, you have to take that amount back and put it into the down payment. You go back and forth a few times, whereas on the app, you'll just simulate as paid and see what happens. Oh, closing costs. Oh, this was a challenge. So in Pre-Q1, unfortunately, we didn't build closing costs into it. So there was a lot of questions that if a person has a finite amount of funds, let's say they have $250,000, a portion of that money has to be reserved for closing costs. Now, closing costs sometimes is a percentage. They require a 1.5% reserve cash. If you're trying to figure out what the maximum purchase price is, and you only have a percentage, you have a percentage of an unknown number. So how do you figure out what the down payment is? It gets very tricky, but in the app, all you do is you set the percentage based on the lender you work with, or you can say, I want actual closing costs. So the app will figure out land transfer taxes, and you can further set in appraisal fees and all those things, and it will intelligently deduct from the available funds and allocate sufficient for closing costs in a way that it maximizes the purchase price and down payment. Of course, lots of customizations. You can set the maximum GDST. So the app has some defaults. You can see there's a switch that says auto configure. It'll figure it out. However, if you want to customize it further, you can set the max GDST, which will push the maximum loan up. You can even say, I want it to be an 80% LTV, an 80% loan to value. You can say, I need it to be an insured mortgage, so I need to set it greater than 80% LTV. You can customize qualifying rate, so you can actually figure out what happens in the future. You can simulate a BOC rate hike. You can see finally whether it's a 25-year insured mortgage is better than a 30-year uninsured mortgage, given all the other parameters. And rental rules. So we have some really cool features about rentals, which it's going to blow your mind. Investor friendly. Yes. So one of the things that Pre-Q1 missed was non-subject properties. Non-subject properties are properties that the client owns, but it's not the subject of the application. They're non-subject. There are rental properties, cottages, whether they're living upstairs and they are renting out the basement and trying to purchase another property. All those real life scenarios are not covered in Pre-Q2. You can even have second mortgages on your non-subject properties. If you have ever worked with non-subject properties and rental properties specifically, you know that each lender has a rental worksheet. And these rental worksheets are quite different from each other, from lender to lender. And sometimes they're difficult to complete. Sometimes they're too easy to complete. But essentially what they will give you is, at the end, they will give you a shortfall or a surplus on those properties. And now if it's a shortfall, you have to use it as a liability, as like a debt payment. If it's a surplus, so you're actually making money, it will be used as income. So you have to add it to the original income of the client. But the problem is that you have to do them one at a time to figure out the different surpluses and shortfalls. What if I were to tell you that the app not only does them all simultaneously, but recalculates the maximum purchase price based on those liabilities and based on those shortfalls and surpluses? So you can quickly see which lender, based on the rental worksheet that is, will have the maximum purchase price. The more we dove into Pre-Qual, the more we realized that how complex it is to give someone an accurate number. Of course, you can give a rough number, but in today's market, when every dollar matters, I think to have the accurate number is the best. Let's do a demo. Part one, of course, we're going to take it easy today because there was an overview and Hopefully you're still with me. We're going to do a simple pre-qual as a first-time homebuyer, FTHV. I'm going to show you how to read the results. Then we're going to generate a report. I'll show you how that looks. And then we're going to get into a little bit of customizations. Because the pre-qual estimates home expenses, you don't need the property at hand. Sometimes you may know the property already, so you want to enter in the property taxes or the condo fees and see what it looks like. And then I'll show you the income and total funds required, how to calculate those. If time permits, I will try to cover part 2 in this session. Let's start with a simple pre-qual. We're just going to go through it. So I have my phone projected here. You're going to be able to see my finger tap on these buttons. There you can see. This is live. So I'll walk you through the first-time home buyer scenario. So let's start new. Now, if you're interested, you can actually go through this and see what your clients may see if they were to look at this. Okay. Where do you plan to buy? As I go through the screens, I'll also explain why we need this information and what it actually does. So this particular one, I'm going to choose Toronto. Of course, you can enter in any city in Canada. It fetches location data. It grabs property tax rates, average condo fees for specific purchase prices. It grabs heat expenses, every information we have aggregated for this particular city. Now, this is how smart it is. If we don't have the property tax for that particular city, it looks at the population of that city and it tries to go to the nearest with a similar population. Chances are the mill rate are very similar. Of course, we get notified to make sure that those mill rates are populated back into our data. Let's go next. Are you a Canadian citizen or permanent resident? So we're going to answer yes, but there were situations where clients were not, and they've gone even all the way down to the agreement, and they later realized that there's a foreign buyer tax, and that became a deal breaker and a lot of trouble for the professionals involved, the realtor, the mortgage broker, because no one told them about it. So here we just have it right on the app, and it's very simple. Yes. First-time home buyer, yes, of course, that this is the scenario. One thing that the wizard adapts to the user's input. Because I said first-time home buyer, I'm not going to get asked a few other questions down the line. If I were to choose, for example, a house, it's going to ask me what I want to rent out part of the house. So let's just say yes. Which part of the house? The entire house is a full subject rental, or is it a partial rental? So you're planning to live upstairs, rent the basement. There are different rules that goes with it. And I want to show you what it does when I select a condo. So let me go back, a couple of screens, choose a condo. And let's just say we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say, yes, we're going to rent out the condo. It knows it's a condo. You can't rent out the basement of a condo. So it's not going to ask you those questions. But let's just say first-time home buyer, he wants it for himself or herself. Now, this is the total funds they have available. So I'm going to put in $250,000. There's some cool stuff in here. For example, if you put 250 bucks, it's going to say, hey, did you mean 225,000? Because people are thinking 250K. We're looking at 250,000. Do you have any outstanding debts? And that's the debt UI I was talking about. Just watch how easy it is. Credit card. Yes, everyone has a credit card. It's a Visa. Balance is 5,000. And let's say my limit is 15. I can add unlimited amount of credit cards. Not that it's a good thing, but I'm able to do it. Let's see what else we have here. Car loan. Okay, let's add a car loan. So let's say Toyota. Balance is, let's say $25,000 left on it. And I'm paying $350 bi-weekly. Done. Okay, I think that's about it. Let's just say no more debts. Let's continue. What's the employment status? So obviously this question really just matters for the next screen, because if I were to say I'm self-employed, it's going to ask me what is the 2-year average income. And in case the client doesn't know where it is, there's a little hint that says where to find it. And it's going to tell them it's on line 15,000 on the NOA. But let's just say we are self-employed and we're making $120,000. How would you rate your credits? Of course, the app does not pull credit. That would be way too expensive for you because it's your app. So that's why we have it as self-reported. It actually affects the GDS defaults. Let's say excellent. It's going to do some thinking. It's going to load up, build some anticipation, and voila. We can afford up to $677,000. You can see that the house was animated, which was pretty cool. If you have testimonials on your app, they will show up right here at the bottom when tapped. Make sure you put testimonials so that way your clients can see them. You can tap on it and they can read them. If you don't have testimonials, that thing will actually be just empty. So this is our first-time homebuyer path. We've figured out what our maximum purchase price is. And now let's go through the results together so you get to see what it contains. So I'm scrolling up here. I can see that my total monthly cost is $3,200, which is a combination of the mortgage payments, the property taxes that were estimated, by the way, the condo fees also estimated for this purchase price, and the heat expenses. But let's scroll further. So this is how the home price was calculated. We have a down payment, and if you recall, I put in $250,000 as my total available funds. But down payment here shows only $239,000. Why? Well, because there are closing costs. But here you can actually tap on these things just so you know. You can see what it looks like. And then here finally is the mortgage details. You can see that there's a total loan of $437. It's an uninsured mortgage. You can see the actual GDS, CDS. You can see that we're maxed out with our TDS. And the perfect loan to value has been calculated to be 64.59%. That is like the best you can get with all the settings that you see here. View the breakdown if you want to see if you want to see the net mortgage in case it was insured, you want to see what the net mortgage was and what is the mortgage insurance amount. So that's all there for you. And that's pretty much the summary. Let's step back and generate a report. Let's see how that looks. So there was actually a question from attendee, what about insured mortgage? It turned out that the uninsured yields a higher purchase price than an insured. When we get into customizations, you'll see very quickly that if I were to force an insured mortgage on this, the purchase price would drop. It would not be the best. It would not be the max. But sometimes clients want to pay mortgage insurance. Sure, you go and customize it and enforce that. The app just simply gives you the maximum best solution. Right on top, right in the middle, there is a button. When you tap on it, you get an option. Create a report or export scenario. The difference is that a report will generate a nice, beautiful report that you can share. Exporting a scenario actually creates a file, and you can share the file. And the file is now importable into other apps. So you can actually share with some colleague, and the colleague just taps on the file and import it into their mobile app so they can further customize it and do things with it. But in this session, we'll just cover create report. So boom, gives you a nice preview. This is how it looks like. It has all the details embedded. It's just beautiful. It talks about the subject property, what it is. It's not a rental. It's not a brand new home. Property taxes. And let's actually see this one on my desktop. So I'm just going to airdrop it. It's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it's a consumer-facing report, so it's not very difficult to look at, but You can see how payments were constructed. There's the interactive graphs, the property, the subject property, where it's located. It's a condo, property taxes, condo fees, and heat. Of course, if you're working with a live deal, you may want to go in there and update property taxes and condo fees and recalculate the maximum purchase price. So I'll show you how to do that in a sec. But you can see all the information about the applicant, the funds, the income, and the qualifying details that we use in order to qualify the person. The MQR is visible. That's the mortgage qualifying rate, also known as stress test rate. But the actual interest rate, it says to be quoted, simply because a person has to go through a full mortgage application in order to get that interest rate secured. We didn't want to put any number in there. And the list of liabilities. Of course, if you have the Pro at the bottom, the QR code will actually take your client to your app. So you can be sending this particular report to anyone. They get a chance to download your app. Very basic customizations because we don't have a lot of time. So the very first thing we want to do is we found the property. We know what the property taxes were last year. We know what the condo fees are. So let's go enter that information in because we want accurate numbers, right? All you do is tap on edit expenses. And this is where you get first introduced to our settings area of the Pre-Qual. We can quickly see right on top, there's a header section. This is where all the results are displayed. You can see it's an uninsured mortgage with LTV, GDST, TDS, it's all there. Right below it, you see a little scrollable tab. And these are all the different areas of interest. For example, we have the subject property. Then you got your applicant information, so income, down payment, etc. The list of debts, existing properties they own, and then some of the qualification details that mortgage brokers love to customize, and then closing cost configuration. So that's also there. Let's first look at the subject because that's what we're interested in. We have a live deal. We want to see what it looks like for a specific property. So simply turn off the auto estimate expenses, and now you can enter them in. It's that simple. So I'm just going to do, we know this property was $5,000 annual property taxes. You can see that instantly you get these numbers updated. Condo fees was $400. All right. And heat expenses, I'm just going to try $50. So you can now see with that configuration, the max purchase price has actually increased. You can always turn this back on to auto estimate, and it will figure out based on the purchase price, based on the data we have, what the property taxes and purchase price will look like. So that's our first step of configuration. I just want to point out that you can simply change this from a condo. You can change it to a house. And if you look, the condo fee disappears. Condo, house. So it looks like house is better here. Some lenders, they offer ability to exclude home expenses. And all you do is just tap this button and voila. Without those home expenses, look what it looks like. With it, yeah, it's about $100,000 roughly. And rental plans, you can set owner-occupied rental or a full rental. So, but I'm not going to go through that. Just wanted to show you where it is. And location really matters here. For example, if I'm in a different city, let's say I'm in Ottawa. Right now, you won't see much different, but property tax rates changes, right? So things change based on location. Let's go back to Toronto. And also closing costs are also affected by the location. So next thing I want to show you is the applicant, which is the next tab. Now we can quickly move these sliders. So let's say you have a property of $800,000 in mind, and you want to know what is with the same income, because my income is not going to change drastically. How much money do I really need for that $800,000 property? So all you do is you move the slider very slowly until you get to roughly that number. So I would need roughly $350,000 because 342 of that is actually allocated to down payment. And because I've configured my app, you can set your own closing cost percentage as you wish. You can set it up to be 0.5%, 0%, completely turn it off, or you can set it up to 4%. So it's really up to you. You can configure that, and not only just for yourself, but globally for your clients too. But it's just fascinating how you can move the slider, and at any point in time, it knows the max purchase price. Same thing with the income. You can increase income, and it also does increase the max purchase price. Some of those details are actually just there for you, so that when the client goes through it, you get that information coming to you.